She called herself ugly. The rancher's confession changed everything. The moment she spoke, the church seemed to shrink around her. I'm ugly. Her voice trembled, but the words landed hard, echoing off the wooden pews and whitewashed walls. Heads turned. Some people shifted uncomfortably. Others looked down, pretending not to hear. Eleanor stood at the front of the church, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone pale, her eyes fixed on the floor as if she were afraid to look up and see her reflection in the judgment of others. She had not always believed this about herself. Once, long ago, she had laughed easily. Once, she had known what it felt like to be seen. That was before the fire. The scar traced one side of her face, a jagged reminder of a night that had taken everything. Her home, her parents, and the simple confidence she had carried without thinking. In the years since, whispers had followed her like shadows. Children stared. Adults pitied her. Some avoided her altogether, as if her scars were contagious. So when the pastor invited anyone who wished to share their testimony, Eleanor hadn't planned to stand. Her legs moved before her courage could stop them. And now she was here, exposed beneath the soft glow of lantern light, her pain laid bare before an entire congregation. I know God sees the heart, she continued quietly, but people see the face. And when they look at me, I know what they think. A few people swallowed hard. Someone in the back wiped away a tear. Still, no one spoke. No one, except him. He sat 3 rows back, broad-shouldered, dressed plainly in a brown coat that smelled faintly of leather and earth. His hands were rough, his posture steady, as if he were more comfortable under open skies than beneath a church roof. He had come late, slipping into the pew without drawing attention, his hat resting on his knee. Everyone in town knew him as the rancher. Quiet. Reserved. A man of few words and strong principles. He'd lost his wife years ago and never remarried. People said he kept to himself because grief had hardened him. Others said he was simply born that way. But as Eleanor spoke, something in his expression shifted. She finished with a whisper. I've prayed to feel beautiful again. But some days I can't. The silence that followed was heavy, almost unbearable. Eleanor nodded to herself, as if confirming what she already believed, that this was her burden alone. She turned to return to her seat. That was when the rancher stood. The scrape of his boots against the wooden floor broke the stillness. Murmurs rippled through the church as he walked forward, hat still in his hand. Eleanor froze, unsure whether to step aside or stay. He stopped beside her, facing the congregation. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he took a breath. My name is Thomas, he began, his voice low but steady. Most of you know me. I don't speak much. But tonight, I need to. He glanced at Eleanor, not at her scar, but at her eyes. You called yourself ugly, he said gently. And I can't sit there and let that stand. A few people leaned forward. The pastor's eyebrows rose slightly, surprised but attentive. Thomas swallowed. Years ago, there was a fire on the edge of town. A bad one. Took a family from this world far too soon. Eleanor's breath caught. She felt dizzy, as if the floor beneath her had shifted. I was there, Thomas continued. I was riding fence when I saw the smoke. I ran toward it without thinking. The church was utterly silent now. I pulled a child out first, he said. Barely conscious. Then I heard screaming, from inside. Eleanor's hands began to shake. I went back in, he said, his voice tightening. The roof was collapsing. The heat was unbearable. I saw a young woman shielding her parents, refusing to leave them even when the flames were closing in. Gasps spread through the room. She shoved me toward the door, Thomas said. Not herself. Me. And when part of the beam fell, she pushed again. Hard enough that I stumbled out. He paused, his eyes glistening. That beam took her face. But she saved my life. A sob escaped Eleanor's lips before she could stop it. I've carried that moment with me every day, Thomas said. The strength it took. The selflessness. The courage. He turned fully toward Eleanor now. You don't see beauty when you look in the mirror, he said softly. But I see the bravest person I've ever known. The room seemed to exhale all at once. Tears flowed freely now, unashamed, unchecked. Thomas continued, his voice breaking. I never told anyone because I didn't know how to honor it properly. But hearing you speak tonight, I realized silence was another kind of cowardice. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, worn photograph. This was taken before the fire, he said. I kept it to remind myself what true beauty looks like. He held it out to Eleanor. Her hands trembled as she took it. In the photo, a younger version of herself smiled, bright, fearless, alive. And suddenly she understood something she had never allowed herself to believe. That girl was still here. The scar did not erase her. It told her story. I survived because of you, Thomas said. And I've spent years trying to live a life worthy of that gift. Eleanor looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. For the first time in years, she did not feel small. She felt seen. The pastor stood slowly, placing a hand over his heart. Thank you, he said simply. The congregation rose to their feet, not in applause, but in quiet reverence. People reached out, touching Eleanor's arm, her shoulder, offering smiles filled not with pity, but respect. In that moment, something inside Eleanor shifted. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift, not because the world had changed, but because the truth had finally been spoken. Later, as the church emptied and lanterns flickered low, Eleanor and Thomas stood outside beneath the open sky. I don't know what comes next, Eleanor said quietly. Thomas smiled, a small, honest smile. Neither do I, he replied. But you don't have to walk it alone. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the soft promise of new beginnings. And for the first time in a long while, Eleanor believed that healing was not about erasing scars, but about letting love speak louder than them.